What is up, guys? That's it here. It is Sanctuary Sunday once again, and it is time to finish the tale with the final chapter, the Lord of Destruction. Stay a while and listen. As the heroes waged their battles against Mephisto and Diablo, Baal set out across the twin seas to corrupt the World Stone, and thereby all of humankind. With the whole of humanity turned to darkness, he would possess an army with a power beyond even that of angels and demons, a fighting force capable of tipping the scales of the eternal conflict. It appears, however, that in order to fulfill his plan, Baal required the Ember Soulstone Shard that had been used to imprison him so long ago by the Horadrim. As you will remember, the shard had been taken by Marius, the Dark Wanderer's former companion. Rather than follow Tyrion's orders to destroy the stone, Marius had fled to Westmarch. There, driven to the brink of madness, he had been arrested and confined to a sanitarium. It did not take long for Baal to track him down and acquire the Soulstone Shard. Reports say that a raging inferno swept through the sanitarium around the time. Sadly, Marius's charred corpse was later found in the remains of the building. One can only assume that this act of destruction was Baal's doing. For quite some time, Cain wondered why the Soulstone was so vital to Baal's plans, but he believes now he has an adequate explanation. Over the long centuries Baal was imprisoned, the stone became infused with destructive essence. By melding this shard of destruction to the World Stone, Baal knew that he could irrevocably corrupt the monolithic crystal. Having secured the shard, Baal marched north from Westmarch, butchering entire villages en route to Mount Arreat. Those who died were not granted peace. They were possessed and transformed into hideous demonic soldiers. By the time Baal reached Arreat, his unholy legions had swelled to numbers in the thousands. Some might question why Baal assaulted Arreat in force if he could have reached the World Stone through stealth and deception. From what Cain has gathered, every act of mayhem and wanton chaos committed by the Demon Lord and his minions bolstered the shard's destructive power. Thus, Baal intended to wreak havoc along his journey to ensure that when he reached the World Stone, the shard itself would be pulsing with untold corruptive energies. Near Arreat's foothills, Baal contended with the barbarians. These fierce guardians had lived to protect Arreat for generations, believing that the holy heart of the world existed within the mountain. The barbarians had long venerated Bulkathos and other Nephilim, and they believed that the spirits of these ancients resided upon the lonely peaks of Arreat as a last line of defense against any who would threaten the sacred mount. By all accounts, the barbarians fought ferociously, living up to their reputation as some of Sanctuary's hardiest warriors. Yet, it was not enough to prevent the Lord of Destruction from storming across their lands and sacking their great capital of Sescheron. Eventually, all that stood between Baal and Arreat's summit was Harrogath, a fortress nestled in the mountain's foothills. Reports suggest that the stronghold's elders grew desperate at the sight of Baal's marauding armies. To stave off annihilation, they sacrificed themselves to cast an ancient and forbidden warding spell, creating a protective barrier around Harrogath. It was then that Baal's forces laid siege to the bastion. With Tyrion's aid, the heroes who had defeated Diablo and Mephisto arrived at Harrogath amidst the chaos. Over the course of their journey, the heroes' numbers had grown. One newcomer who had pledged herself to the cause was an assassin of the Vizjaktar, a secretive order created to hunt down and slay renegade sorcerers. Having forsworn the direct use of magic, the assassin donned exotic weapons and armor imbued with elemental energies. Another newcomer was a druid who traveled far from the fabled woodlands of Skogsglen. Prior to meeting this individual, Cain had read extensively from the ancient druidic tome Silfada, and knew much about the druid's abilities to command the forces of nature and assume the forms of various beasts. The band of heroes did all they could to break Baal's demonic siege. Their efforts, however, were overshadowed by treachery. Miklatag, the only elder to have survived the warding ritual, believed that unless he made a pact with the Lord of Destruction, his people would be doomed. In exchange for the sparing of Harrogath, the elder provided Baal with the Relic of the Ancients, one of the holiest artifacts in barbarian culture. With the artifact in hand, Baal raced up the slopes of Ariad, bypassing the guardian Nephilim spirits and breaching the World Stone's secret chamber within the bowels of the mountain. The heroes followed in his tracks, clashing with the Demon Lord's minions and even proving themselves worthy against Ariad's spectral Nephilim. Ultimately, they confronted Baal within the World Stone's chamber and vanquished him in a ferocious battle that left them at the brink of death. Yet, as the heroes were horrified to learn, Baal had fused the Shard of Destruction with the World Stone. All of the strife and horror that had accumulated within the shard had already begun spreading throughout the gargantuan crystal. When Tyrael arrived to assess the situation, he realized that these dark energies would soon echo through the hearts of all mankind, turning humans irrevocably evil and violent. And so Tyrael did the unthinkable. He hurled his sword Eldruin into the World Stone itself. In that moment, the object over which the eternal conflict had been waged, that had created Sanctuary and all its myriad forms of life, was shattered in a horrific explosion. The World Stone's destruction was catastrophic. Baal's body was obliterated, and his spirit was flung into the abyss, just like those of the other primes. What remained of his demonic forces was utterly destroyed as well, and the surrounding area was devastated. To this day, toxic clouds of ash and choking arcane dust hang like a shroud over the land. The decimation was so utterly calamitous that this region is now known as the Dreadlands. What became of Tyrael after this event is unknown, but it is clear that his physical form, like Baal's, was disintegrated. Suffice to say that, from the time of Diablo's awakening beneath Tristram to Tyrael's destruction of the World Stone, the narrative of men, angels, and demons was altered forever. And as sure as we can be of the importance of these troubling times, one thing remains certain: evil yet lives. And thus ends this week's Sanctuary Sunday, and we're done with the lore prior to the third game. I hope you enjoyed the series, and we'll look forward to other lore-related content in the future. Until then, I would appreciate your subscription to my channel, see me live at twitch.tv/TheDeadSet, keep in touch with the Twitter and Facebook I'll link below, and I'll see you guys next time.